welcome to our lesson about Indigenous music in the Americas. I would like to give my extra special thanks to two people that gave me such a wonderful gift of time to explain from their perspective about Indigenous music in their communities. The first person I'd like to thank is Miss Jade Roberts. She is an Indigenous educator from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in Canada, and she comes from the Nehita tribe, also known as the Cree. The second person I would love to thank for his time is Mr. Frankie Orona, and he is the Executive Director of Society of Native Nations here in Texas, and he comes from the Tongva Chumash tribe. I'm so grateful for their expertise and their willingness to teach me about their culture and their music. Thank you so much. Indigenous hand drumming is a big part of Indigenous communities, and the representation of that is that heartbeat, that reminder of what the earth and what life has given us. It also helps us remember these things, especially when we forget how all of us are connected throughout the earth. It's a sacred reminder of these things that the earth has given us. It's a wonderful, wonderful reminder, sometimes referred to even as medicine in Indigenous communities. Now, when referring to medicine in Indigenous communities, it's not really the medicine that you would think that you would get at a pharmacy or from the doctor. It's actually closer to something that reminds us again of who you are. So, seed bead necklaces from the Diné tribe, also known as the Navajo, regalia, and wearing your culture with pride, that's a form of medicine. Drumming and different ceremonies are also considered part of medicine. Carrying around gifts such as tobacco, sage, and cedar. These are all very special things that are held near and dear to Indigenous people's hearts. All of these things are considered medicine. In Indigenous communities, many people participate in Indigenous hand drumming, but in some tribes, it's led by women. It's very, very cool to be able to see all sorts of people participate in these ceremonies. Always just drumming either. A good group of people that use rattles also get to participate in these sacred ceremonies. The songs that they have chosen to sing all have significance in their lives at various stages. So having an Indigenous hand drum or a drummer is again the reminder of that heartbeat. Now the rattles, they signify people's voices. And in that music that's being passed down generation to generation, it remains the same and it remains true. Indigenous hand drumming ceremonies vary from mourning somebody's death to celebrating somebody's birth to celebrating various stages of life that have been passed, as well as honoring certain spirits and honoring elders. Indigenous music is passed by generation to generation in an oral tradition fashion. Now, this means that primarily elders are speaking with and passing down their history to their descendants or the younger generations within the tribe. Now, in order to keep the languages and the music going, it's imperative that the younger generation pay tribute and listen very carefully to these sacred songs and ceremonies. In order to really understand oral traditions and how they are so prevalent in Indigenous communities, the younger generations need to visit the elders in their tribes and bring them gifts of sage, tobacco, and an open heart and an open mind to really learn about those songs that have been perpetuated for generations. Oral tradition is also about understanding identity and really making sure that the iwish, as Mr. Orona talked about, or your personal identity is communicated. So things like headdresses, beadwork, drums, regalia, these are things that help really transform and let everyone in the tribe know who you are as part of their community. Now, what we would typically think of as prayer, in a sense, is very unique to Indigenous communities in that their prayer can very much be in the form of song. And that is such a special thing when speaking about Indigenous music. It's sacred. It's part of their culture. It's part of who they are. So it takes people to really understand that it is a form of prayer and it must be treated as very reverent. Thanks again for watching this beautiful lesson on Indigenous hand drumming and Indigenous music in the Americas. It's been an absolute privilege getting to speak to Miss Jade Roberts as well as Mr. Frankie Orona, learning about the music that perpetuates in their beautiful communities. Thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to support their organizations that they work, and that they can really reach even more people by spreading their message and letting it be heard throughout the world. Thank you so much. Well, I take this opportunity to remind each and every one of you that Indigenous communities are alive, they are thriving, and they're so vibrant and have so much to offer us. Please make it a point to understand the Indigenous communities in your area and see what they are up to. Learn about their traditions, honor them. Thank you so much.